Wow, go on. That is a question, you understand? Mm-hmm. Crime rate turn up. Big C turn up. But Big C alone I get pushed like, I don't know, like a it alone I keep, you know, understand? Them say Big C still a keep, but another C still a keep. Another big C they bought that still a keep. So I'm gonna dive into some things, but because there's a lot me want to say, I'm gonna want to waste a lot of time. I'm gonna just dive right in and you just see what I got, you understand? But let me just read this. But before me even read this, there are three aspects of man. Three aspects. More you understand, say we are spiritual, we are physical, we are mental. You understand? We are spiritual beings, we are mental beings, we are physical beings, and I don't think we should try to treat anyone less than the other. And what I mean by that is that the spiritual man is basically the driver of the physical man and the mental man. You understand? The spiritual substance that exists in everybody is a driver. The vehicle is the body, and the mind is basically I consider that to be the compass or the road map for you to navigate through this dimension. So if your mind not intact, or if one of them not intact, the spirit not intact, the vehicle can't move. You understand? If the mind not intact, the body can't function like it should. So each complement the other, each support the other, and none should be treated less than the other. That's what I'm trying to say. And as we go through this quick presentation, you see why I may even say that. Now let's jump over to this. So this is Ecclesiastics chapter 9, and this is not from a religious standpoint, but just I read something I find appropriate to what is going on. It says, I I also saw under the sun this example of wisdom that greatly impressed me. There was a man once there was once a man my apologies. There was once a small city with only a few people in it, and a powerful king came against it, surrounded it, and built huge siege works against it. Now there lived in that city a man poor but wise, and he saved the city by his wisdom. Excuse me. But nobody remembered that poor man. So I said, wisdom is better than strength, but the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are no longer heeded. The quiet words of the wise are more to be heeded than the shouts of a ruler of fools. Why pay attention to that, little people, my people? Why pay attention to that a little bit? Why also look at this? Bone Buju Banton and make some talk. Other day, Mr. Sprague Benz and make some talk. Both of which me agree with. You understand? Other prominent figures and make some talk in the business. Prominent entertainers and make some talk. You recently Mr. Beanie Man and make some talk. At the time of this recording, Beanie Man and make him talk. Buju Banton and Beanie Man did make him talk recently. Sprague Benz and um um Buju Banton did make them talk about what go on. And I try to defend the people them I try to be the voice for the voiceless. You understand me I say? So watch you now. This is posted. This was posted May 6, 2011. But now really feel certain relevant now. So them talk about this world zombie apocalypse thing, whatever that means, right? And them say there are all kinds of emergencies out there that we can prepare for. Take a zombie apocalypse for example. Right? And them say you might laugh now, but when it happens, you will probably you'll be happy you read this. Right? And you'll probably learn a thing or two about how to prepare for a real emergency. Alright, so whatever them a push with this, then basically show you say anything is possible. And given a pandemic, anything is possible. We don't know. So them a show you say you have to prepare water, food, medication, tools and supplies, sanitation and hygiene, all of them some of them. See? You must have an emergency plan. All them little thing there. And them say this includes where you would go and who you would call if a zombie started. If zombies started appearing outside your doorstep. So we don't want you feel like say this is just a gimmicks thing them I do, right? When I look on this now, because the question me ask before me make you understand something. So the question me ask is this, is it? If there is actually an alternative to this this vaccine that they're promoting, why is it that we're not being encouraged to try the alternatives? If there, I know of a person right now who was even in the Jamaican Star who did his test, did his did this thing and created some form of alternative remedy for the virus. Yet it was not approved by the Ministry of Health, and so he didn't get the permission or the permit to practice because just a small man. It's not like him really a doctor or anything like that, but him have knowledge of certain things and him come up with something. But just say all of that to make you understand so there are alternatives out there. Even when I just read upon when I go read now upon the site, I go show you what I try to say. Alright, so I'm gonna go back to the site. So the World Health Organization welcomes innovation around the world, including repurposing drugs, traditional medicines, and developing new therapies in the search for potential treatments for COVID-19. WHO recognizes that traditional complementary and alternative medicine has many benefits, and Africa has a long history of traditional medicine and practitioners that play an important role in providing care to populations. Right? So they'll go on to say some things. Basically, if Africa going to decide to do that, still them need to be guided by the protocols and them testing regulations and so forth. But what we want to pay attention to here is when them say right down here. So it says WHO welcomes every opportunity to collaborate with countries and researchers to develop new therapies and encourages such collaboration for the development of effective and safe therapies for Africa and the world. New therapies. Now, coming back again, question me want to ask, because what we see go on is me turn on the news every I want to really watch news too, but me turn on the news and every time I turn on the news, this me see. And this alone a key basically. Me not say other things in the news. Other day me see a man, some Rasta man do some like a protest thing, and if me could have recite to them say it would be impossible because they never did get a minute to share them information, them message from the protest. It's almost as if TVJ was selective in the amount of time that they gave these protesters to make their point. It was so brief, so short. They basically cut off what you must say before you finish say it. As if they had their own purpose or interest in all this scheme. Everywhere you're going on, wear your mask, social distance, wash your hands, all of them very there. But people are suffer, people hungry, things are get stickier, people are get more desperate, right? And everybody can use them time here and weather the storm and try to be innovative and creative, and everybody some people get frustrated and become your nightmare, them are come looking, I look for food. But not promote badness. Mr. The man the other day at El Shawe, basically running the police them and I talk in a very, aggressive tone and manner, which wearing, although I can see the message when I try to show, cause me see this, I don't want to go too much overboard, but me basically see this is basically it's like okay, the Williams syndrome when them says that oaks still exists in us, you have the field slave and you have the house slave. So the field slave I always feel like say him better than you, even though he's still a slave, you understand? That's something you should think about, that reference there. But let me move on. The man make him talk, them lock him up because him violate orders and so forth. But I agree with the point to him that try to make, but I didn't necessarily agree with his approach. Let me just be clear on that. I'm not telling anybody not to obey the protocols. I'm saying question everything same way. I just take everything with them dish up and way. Alright, I could read this, but because I didn't just have time, this is another thing I want you to read. You can look it up yourself. See the line, the address there. You can look it up and read it, but I'll quickly go through this fast. Alright, the 30 most disturbing human experiments in history. The first one on the list is alright, there's some of them I'm not gonna really read, but when I understand the prison inmate as test subjects in 1951, Dr. Albert M. Klingman, a dermatologist at the University of Pennsylvania and future inventor of retin-A, began experimenting on inmates at Philadelphia's Holmberg's prison. Right? Says over the next 20 years, inmates willingly allowed Klingsman to use their bodies in experiments involving toothpaste, deodorant, shampoo. You hear that? Their bodies in experiments involving toothpaste, deodorant, shampoo, skin creams, detergents, liquid diets, eye drops, foot powders, and hair dyes. So basically, human body are using all of them things. Yeah. Seriously. People, I wonder if I see what me I try for show you. I wonder if I get the connection what me I try for show you. If I not get it, me still gonna show no. I still gonna say it. Alright, this African now, this Henrietta Lacks, 1955, a poor, uneducated African American woman from Baltimore, was the unwitting source of cells, which were then cultured for the purpose of medical research. Though researchers had tried to grow cells before, Henrietta's were the first successfully kept alive and cloned. Henrietta's cells, known as HeLa cells, have been instrumental in the development of polio vaccine, cancer research, AIDS research, gene mapping, and countless other scientific endeavors. Henrietta died penniless and was buried without a tombstone in her family cemetery. For decades, her husband and 5 children were left in the dark about their wife and mother's amazing contribution to modern medicine. And there are some things, people, I want them to say. There are some things I want them to say and understand what I'm going. In 1954, the CIA developed an experiment called Project QK Hilltop to study Chinese brainwashing techniques, which they then used to develop new methods of interrogation, leading the research was Dr. Harold Wolff of Cornell University Medical School. After requesting that the CIA provide him with information on imprisonment, deprivation, humiliation, torture, brainwashing, hypnosis, and more, Wolff's research team began to formulate a plan through which they would develop secret drugs and various brain-damaging procedures. According to a letter he wrote, in order to fully test the effects of the harmful research, Wolff expected the CIA to make available suitable subjects. Alright, again. There's so many, again, people, if you want to read the full thing, you can come through here. So just go to the link here and read that, you understand? Because of the interest of time, I'm not gonna go through everything. In 1960, Dr. Laruta Bender of New York's Credemore Hospital began what she believed to be a revolutionary treatment for children with social issues, electric shock therapy. Bender's methods included interviewing and analyzing a sensitive child in front of a large group, then applying a gentle amount of pressure to their child's head. So supposedly, any child who moved with the pressure was showing early signs of schizophrenia. Herself the victim of a misunderstood childhood, Bender was said to be unsympathetic to the children in her care. By the time her treatments were shut down, Bender had used electric shock therapy on over 100 children, the youngest of whom was age 3. People are wanting to see what me I try to say. The big question is this another global experiment? Is this just another global experiment? In the 1950s, Willowbrook State School, a New York State-run institution for mentally handicapped children, began experiencing outbreaks of hepatitis. Due to unsanitary conditions, it was virtually inevitable that these children would contract hepatitis. Dr. Saul Krugman, sent to investigate the outbreak, proposed an experiment that would assist in developing a vaccine. However, the experiment required deliberately infecting children with the disease. Alright, let us continue. Let us continue. Initially established in the 1950s as a sub-project of a CIA-sponsored mind control research program, Operation Midnight Climber sought to study the effects of LSD on individuals in San Francisco and New York. Unconsenting subjects were lured to safe houses by prostitutes on CIA payroll, unknowingly given LSD and other mind-altering substances, and monitored from behind one-way glass. Though the safe houses were shut down in 1965 when it was discovered that the CIA was administering LSD to human subjects, Operation Midnight Climax was a theater for extensive research on sexual blackmail, surveillance technology, and the use of mind-altering drugs on field operations. People question, are we some lab rats? Are we some guinea pigs? Are we just going as lamb to the slaughter in this situation? We don't know. So we have to ask questions. We have concerns, Let us continue. Another MK Ultra thing that I heard about here. This one says Project MK Ultra is a code name for a CIA-sponsored research operation that experimented in human behavioral engineering from 1953 to 1973. The program employed various methodologies to manipulate the mental states of American and Canadian citizens. These unwitting human test subjects were plied with LSD and other mind-altering drugs, hypnosis and sensory deprivation, isolation, verbal and sexual abuse, and various forms of torture. Research occurred at universities, hospitals, prisons, and pharmaceutical companies. Alright, well, the project sought to develop chemical material capable of employment in clandestine operations. Project MK Ultra was ended by a Congress Commission investigation into CIA activities within the US. And it continues on and on and on. Newborn experiment and what is this? In 1969, during South Africa's detestable apartheid era, thousands of homosexuals were handed over to the care of Dr. Aubrey Levin, an army colonel and psychologist, convinced he could cure homosexuals at the Vortrey military hospital near Pretoria. Levin used electroconvulsive aversion therapy to reorient his patients. Electrodes were strapped to a patient's upper arm with wires running to a dial calibrated from 1 to 10. Homosexual men were shown pictures of a naked man and encouraged to fantasize, at which point the patient was subjected to severe shocks. When Levin was warned that he would be named an abuser of human rights, he immigrated to Canada, where he currently works at a teaching hospital. Another experiment on prisoners. We want to move faster. Let me just backtrack on that one here. In 1965, Canadian David Peter Reamer was born biologically male, but at 70 months old, his penis was accidentally destroyed during an unconventional circumcision by castration or cauterization. John Money, a psychologist and proponent of the idea that gender is learned, convinced the Reamers that their son would be more likely to achieve a successful functional sexual maturation as a girl. Boy. People, me ask a question. Tell me if me make sense. Tell me if we are just supposed to comply with everything that our rulers dish out to us. Tell me no man, me no know. Put it in the comments, but me know what I'm going. Put it in the comment. Between 1963 and 1973, dozens of Washington and Oregon prison inmates were used as test subjects in an experiment designed to test the effects of radiation on testicles, bribed with cash and the suggestion of parole. 130 inmates willingly agreed to participate in the experiments conducted by the University of Washington on behalf of the U.S. government. In most cases, subjects were zapped with over 400 rods of radiation. Oh boy. Let's go along. This is another one that was chilling. From 1946 to 1948, the United States government, Guatemalan President Juan Jose Arevalo, and some Guatemalan health ministries cooperated in a disturbing human experiment on unwitting Guatemalan citizens. Doctors deliberately infected soldiers, prostitutes, prisoners, and mental patients with syphilis and other sexually transmitted diseases in an attempt to track their untreated natural progression. Treated only with antibiotics, the experiment resulted in at least 30 documented deaths. In 2010, the United States made a formal apology to Guatemala for their involvement in these experiments. We know say people just want to make trouble, people just want to be disobedient, people just want to go against the narrative, though. Are these things have been. It's another interesting one here. 1956 and 1957, the United States Army conducted a number of biological warfare experiments on the cities of Savannah, Georgia, and Avon Park, Florida. In one such experiment, millions of infected mosquitoes were released into the two cities in order to see if the insects could spread yellow fever and dengue fever. Not surprisingly, hundreds of researchers contracted illnesses that included fevers, respiratory problems, stillbirths, encephalitis, and typhoid. In order to photograph the results of the experiments, Army researchers pretended to be public health workers. Several people died as a result of the research. Human experimentation in the Soviet Union. Beginning in 1921 and continuing for most of the 21st century, the Soviet Union employed poison laboratories known as Laboratory 1, Laboratory 12, and Chimera as covert research facilities of secret police agencies. Excuse me. Prisoners from the gulags were exposed to a number of deadly poisons, the purpose of which was to find a tasteless, odorless chemical that could not be detected post-mortem. Tested poisons included mustard gas, ricin, digitoxin, and curare, among others. Men and women of varying ages and physical conditions were brought to the laboratories and given the poisons as medication or part of a meal or drink. Jaja. Over the course of the Third Reich and Holocaust, Nazi Germany conducted a series of medical experiments on Jews, POWs, Romani, and other persecuted groups. The experiments were conducted in concentrated camps and in most cases resulted in death, disfigurement, or permanent disability. Especially during experiments included attempts to genetically manipulate twins, bone, muscle, and nerve transplantation, exposure to diseases and chemical gases, sterilization, and anything else the infamous Nazi doctors could think of. After the war, these crimes were tried as part of the Nuremberg trial and ultimately led to the development of the Nuremberg Code of Medical Ethics. From 1937 to 1945, the Imperial Japanese Army developed a covert biological and chemical warfare research experiment called Unit 731, based in the large city of Harbin. Unit 731 was responsible for some of the most atrocious war crimes in history. Chinese and Russian subjects, men, women, children, infants, the elderly, and pregnant women were subjected to experiments which included the removal of organs from a live body, amputation for the study of blood loss, germ warfare attacks, and weapons testing. People, I don't know how I think when I read this, I don't know what going to phone of mind. I don't know if I see it relevant. I don't know if I see it irrelevant. To what me I try to show, I don't know. I really don't know still, But me I got end fast, cause me still I go over the time. But me just want to ask that, consider, consider the fact that we really don't know everything about one. And that's why people them a question. So all those who want to just take them vaccine shot, you're free to take it, but not discriminate nobody who don't want to take it. That's basically my message, and but just want the people them to know, say, people like Bojo Banton and Sprague Benz and others like them who want to go out there now, let them voice be heard for the voiceless. And them are the true soldiers and them are the true warriors, and we represent with them, you understand? Because when I fear for life, you understand? We're most dead one day. But it's the fear tactics with them I put down with people. I'm gonna support it. But answer that there's not a virus out there somewhere. I'm gonna say that people not dying from it, and I'm gonna say there should not be any need for a solution. What me say is that we want to be able to question what going on our system. I wouldn't want nobody give you the argument say well this a go on a long time and I first and so what a big deal. A lot of things are going long time. As I can say, a lot of times them do experiments on the human population. Why we think this time different? That is the question. So if you want to do your thing, you do your thing. Not tell a man what to do, but a man have to tell him what to do regarding this situation. People are suffer. See crime and violence turn up in Jamaica. People are suffer left, right, and center. People feared for do certain things because of the gunman them. But all we have said is this virus talk, this big C talk. But no one think in the comments to you see. As I said, this is not a pretty talk and this is not a pretty voice, because this is a different mode, this is a different vibe, this is a different way and perspective me I try to show, because not all that glitters is gold, you know. And it's not everybody in authority has the best interest at heart. Remember that. Until next time, as always, let knowledge be a path to true freedom. Until next time, peace.